Hello, readers and writers. Welcome to lesson 20 of your ELA School Away from School. I'm Mr. Driver, and I will be your virtual teacher for today's daily lesson. Let's start with some guiding questions. What journey does food take before it gets to your plate? And how do we make decisions about what we eat? Remember that we'll continue addressing these questions through all of our work together. All right, time to get some materials for today's lesson. You're going to need your copy of the text, An Organic On-Campus Farm Connects Kids to Agriculture and Growing Food, your copy of lesson number 20, the lesson number 20 note catcher, as well as a pencil. Go ahead and pause the video here and make sure you have everything needed for today. We have two learning targets for today's work. I can determine the central idea of an informational text, and I can cite text-based evidence that provides the strongest support for my analysis of a text. Remember, the central message is the big idea that the author wants you to understand and take away from reading a text. And the analysis of a text is when you analyze a text, which is looking more closely at it. Let's make sure we keep these learning targets in mind during all of our work together. First, we will do a close read on the article, An Organic On-Campus Farm Connects Kids to Agriculture and Growing Food. As I read aloud the article, please follow along with your eyes on the words that are being spoken. Take a moment to get your article out. It's important to hear the article read in its entirety before we start to examine it section by section. Feel free to pause the video or replay it as needed. If you're ready, we'll go ahead and get started. An organic on-campus farm connects kids to agriculture and growing food. Fresno Adventist Academy fourth graders from left, JCD Johnson, Elise Conception, and Ty Winkle washed radishes they picked during their class at an on-campus Harvest Fields organic farm in Fresno, California, October 5th, 2016. Fresno, California. On a 40-acre school site in southeast Fresno sits a little-known farm that is inspiring minds and growing healthful food. Launched 2 years ago on the Fresno Adventist Academy campus, Harvest Fields Organic Farm is a 13-acre operation producing navel oranges, vegetables, and a variety of herbs. Like other organic farms, Harvest Fields uses only natural fertilizers and pesticides. It's also home to a flock of 130 pasture-fed chickens and 4 greenhouses. It's still growing. The school's little-used football field has been plowed under and is being prepared to grow potatoes. Even one of the goalposts has been repurposed as a weather station. We really didn't have much of a football program, so we decided to put that land to a good use, says David Obermiller. Along with his wife, Hope, Obermiller heads a small team that runs Harvest Fields Organic Farm. Connecting farms and schools. The farm is a first-of-its-kind effort in Fresno and mirrors the increasing prevalence of building stronger connections between farms and schools. On the business side, the farm sells its harvested organic fruit and vegetables through its community-supported agriculture program, or CSA. The CSA has about 130 members that receive a weekly box of fresh produce from the farm. At the same time, the Obermillers and the school's teaching staff use the farm as an outdoor classroom. The school has 211 kindergarten through 12th grade students. At this school, students really get their hands dirty, bringing radishes home. Recently, students from Christopher Bipsbum's 4th grade classroom ran excitedly across the campus to the farm's greenhouse. The students helped plant lettuce seeds in seedling containers. Once sprouted, the seedlings will be replanted and used to continue the farm's lettuce production. They also plucked radishes from the ground to be shared with their families. I want you to take them home and taste them and then come back and tell me what you think of them, says Timothy Hyde, a greenhouse manager. Part of what the students learn is how food is grown and, perhaps more important, what it tastes like. For some, it's the first time they've eaten a radish or nibbled on a basil leaf. I didn't know what the basil was when I first saw it, but it tasted pretty good, says Isabella Riley. When we come out here to the farm, we always have fun and we learn lots of stuff about food. The process of growing food. Principal Maria Rasmussen said it's important to expose children to agriculture, one of the region's major industries. It's also important to promote the idea of eating fruits and vegetables as part of a healthy diet. We want our students to learn that there's a process of growing food and that it doesn't just come from the grocery store, she says. Obermiller was lured to Fresno from an organic farm in Arizona to launch the startup farm. He said it is critical that the students get to taste the food that they are helping to grow. reconnecting kids to farming. We live in a fast food culture where you can get food cheaply and quickly, Obermiller says. What we are trying to do is reconnect kids to farming and help them understand what good food tastes like. The farm also recommends students from other schools. A group of about 130 students from William Saroyan Elementary will be touring the farm soon. Obermiller is also helping a downtown Fresno school start its own city farm project. I really believe kids learn better when they know the reason for what they are learning, Obermiller says. Now that we've had a chance to read the text together, I want you to think about a few questions. What is this article mainly about? What extra information does the title, subheadings, and pictures give you? What was the most important piece of information you read? Pause the video here as you think of each of these questions. Now it's time to have a discussion with a family member, caregiver, or a friend. Remember, the central message is a big idea that the author wants you to understand and take away from reading a text. What do you think the central message of this article is? What details from the text make you think that? What new information did you learn? Go ahead and pause the video here while you discuss these. Please take out your lesson number 20 note catcher. Using the lesson number 20 note catcher, write down the central idea of the text. Use at least 2 details to support your initial response. Remember, details are coming straight from the text, coming from the article. They usually can be put in quotations if you are quoting word for word the exact detail as evidence. You can also paraphrase the detail. Sometimes it's good to do both. And maybe try to explain how that connects. So if your central message is something related to, like, whatever the central message is, maybe you find 2 pieces or 2 sentences from the text and you put quotations to put those into the details section. But remember, the central idea can be found often, not word for word, but can often be found after reading the title and subheadings and trying to think about maybe the first paragraph and then the last paragraph, thinking about what was the main purpose for writing this? What did the author want you to lead with? Go ahead and pause the video here while you complete this work. So it's time to wrap up today's lesson. Let's think about how you did with today's learning targets. I can determine the central idea of an informational text, and I can cite text-based evidence that provides the strongest support for my analysis of a text. As a closing, share your writing with someone and tell them why you chose to write what you did. Also, remember to read a book today for 20 minutes. You can also read with a family member, caregiver, or a friend. I also want you to practice your fluency by reading the article from today for 1 minute. You can use a timer or have someone count to 60. After 1 minute, count the words you read and write the number at the top of your text. Later in the week, we will do this again to see how much you've improved. Thanks again for learning with me today. Tomorrow, for lesson 21, we will dive deeper into the first half of this week's article so we can better understand it. Have a great rest of your day.